You're invited to a dramatisation of the Gospel of St. Mark, read in the original Greek, in which you'll be able to follow the biblical drama with the aid of subtitles, images and music. We've been refining the techniques of semi-staging for a dozen or so years now in earlier adaptations from Homer, Aeschylus, Sophocles and the Greek Old Testament. And here is a snippet from our production of the Book of Job to give you an idea of the style and the impact.
Αυρίδε παύσαντολαλούντες δάκτυλον επιθέντες επιστόματι. Οι δε ακούσαντες εμακάρισεν με και γλώσσα αυτών το λάριγγι αυτών εκολύθη.
Ιδού, ο ισχυρός κρατεός η ενισχύει αυτού. Τις γαρέστη κατά αυτόν δυνάστης. Τις δε έστειν ο ετάζων αυτού τα έργα.
You're going to see and hear the same two readers, both Greeks, in the new play, Mark His Words, still confronting each other, but this time in the role of Jesus and a Pharisee. Watch them in rehearsal now as their voices and faces bring to life the radical prophet and a master of the Jewish law.
Και οι γραμματείς και οι Φαρισαίοι, ιδώντες αυτόν αισθίοντα μετά των τελωνών και αμαρτωλών, έλεγον τις μαθητές αυτού. Τι ότι μετά των τελωνών και αμαρτωλών εστί και πίνει?
Ούχριαν έχουσι ισχύοντες ιατρού, αλλά κακώς έχοντες. Ουκ ήλθον καλές σε δικαίους, αλλά αμαρτωλούς.
Our production will bring you about as close as you can possibly get to the historical figure of Jesus. Mark's Gospel is the earliest of the four, and it dates from only about 30 years after the crucifixion. Thanks to the famous first century mummy portraits at Fayum in Egypt, we have a very good idea of the faces of the Greek-speaking Jews for whom Mark was writing in the first instance. And the music that you'll hear will recreate the sound world of 2,000 years ago, because it's being played by an early music specialist, Barnaby Brown, on a reconstruction of a classical AULOS. The earliest complete text of Mark's Gospel was copied as early as 350 AD, shortly after Christianity had become the official religion of the Roman Empire. By that time, the Greek language was pronounced more or less as it is today, so that Isidore and Christos are simply speaking an archaic form of their mother tongue, which is why their delivery is as natural and convincing as you would expect from English actors performing a history play by Shakespeare. The analogy with Shakespeare works very well, by the way, and at various levels. Our play presents historical facts, just as Shakespeare does, but it's also a poetic distillation of history, a poetic drama, to which we want you to respond in the same spirit as you would watch a film of Henry V. We want you to think about how the author shapes his plot, his characterization through dialogue, his use of flashback and anticipation. And that's why the punning title invites you to mark his words. For the moment, that is all you actually need to know about this production. Although I ought perhaps to explain that we shall stop short at the end of the fourth act, so to speak, at the moment of Christ's entry into Jerusalem. The performance will last about an hour and a quarter, and there's no charge for admission. So let me just remind you of the crucial dates, February 16 and 17 at 7:30 p.m, and remind you too of the place, the comfortable lecture theatre in the building immediately across the road from St. John's. And let me encourage you too to visit our link and make a seat reservation online. Previous productions have proved to be very popular. There's so much more one would like to say about the historical context and about the universal consequences of the words in our drama, but I'll leave that job to the 6 specialists who've kindly agreed to contribute some programme notes. And I'll round things off here with a very short true story, structured a bit like a riddle, but which is offered as something like a parable. A certain 9-year-old was taken on his first holiday ever on a punt. It was wartime, 1944, and he hadn't learned to swim yet. But within a week, he swam across the River Thames from one bank to the other. In 2015, in peacetime, his 9-year-old grandson, who'd been swimming since he was 5, had to take a ferry to get across the same river. Is the world going to the dogs? No. The answer to the riddle is that my grandson lives near the Isle of Dogs, whereas I took my first plunge up near Kemble. The interpretation of the parable is a little bit more complicated. The Thames, down near the Woolwich Ferry, which is where Matthew lives, is cold, wide, deep, muddy, tidal, and used by a lot of boats. You might say it was like Christianity after 2,000 years of evolution. And you might ask, where did all that water and mud come from? The Gospel of St. Mark, especially in our dramatisation, is like the Thames up near its source. The water is clear, pure and warm, and there are no dangers of any kind. So please do come along, and perhaps you will learn something while you enjoy the play.